Since the geometry PowerPoint is one of our major assignments for the class, I want to make sure I go over it with you in case there's any questions or concerns that we can address now. First of all, the assignment itself, when we take a look at it, is fairly straightforward. As we see over here, what it's asking for us to do is for you to make a PowerPoint that consists of two examples. One is naturally occurring and one is man-made for each of the items listed on this page. And you'll then create a PowerPoint where each item's a single slide. Now, I recognize that it may take a little bit of creativity for you because the requirement is that you can take these pictures yourself, not that you just Google and copy a picture, but rather these are actual pictures that you've taken yourself. What I have found is if I look back through my phone, I've probably got at least a couple thousand pictures that could work here. I would bet that you already have taken the pictures that can work once you start looking and identifying the items. What's more problematic for some students is trying to just select from which of the many pictures they have that would best work. You'll notice that for each item, remember, you're going to have two examples. Please be sure that you hit both of them, two examples. One is naturally occurring, we'll talk a little bit more about what that would mean, and one is man-made for each of these items. And you have to describe it, you have to provide photographs, you have to give a brief explanation, and then you have to show what the textbook would look like. So in looking at the items, I'll be the first to admit that there's a lot of them here. This is why you definitely do not want to do this solo. You definitely want to work together in your group to create this PowerPoint. I would encourage you in the time that I give you today to break this up so that each person has roughly an equal amount. You can handle it how you'd like, but I would really encourage you to do this as a group project. These terms come from common terms that are used in the geometry curriculum, and they're very Googleable. And what I mean by that is if you're not sure what they mean, you probably need to become sure what they mean. Between the Van de Waal text and Google, you'll find definitions and working definitions that you can use as you generate this PowerPoint for your students. Now, I'm going to provide a couple examples for you. I've got a work sample that I'll share with you that will be on the Blackboard, but I also thought I'd give you kind of an overview at this point so you can see what it looks like. So as we look at this particular work sample, you'll notice that this is a printout of the whole thing. And we see that it starts off with a cover sheet. We have a table of contents that's split over two slides. We then have all of the definitions together with the pictures. And if we take a closer look at this, here's what our cover for this case would look like. Please be sure that you put your names in on the cover. This way, when it's time to evaluate, you can get full credit for it, and I know who is in which group. On your table of contents, although it is not required, it's very helpful to create links. So for example, in this PowerPoint, if I clicked on point, it would take me to the page for point. And then there was likewise a link that returns back. If you're not sure how to do this, don't worry, it's not required, but it certainly makes it more usable for you when you go to use this in a classroom setting. Here's a sample of a point. And you notice that we're not looking for geometric perfection here, are we? It's like the Van Healy level 0. What does it look like? And so if we look at the tip of the alligator's tail, see right there, the very tip of our gator's tail, that would be a point. And if we can answer the question saying it's a point because it looks like one, that's sufficient. Remember, level 0, level 1, that's the Van Healy levels we're going to be looking for. Here on the bottom right, again, the tip of the leaves represent points, okay? Very good, it captures the essence of what we're trying for. And then here's an example of what it might look like in a textbook. hopefully this is giving you some ideas in terms of how you can organize your work. Here's another example. Congruent. Those are objects that are the same size and shape. And so up here we have all of these absolutely lovely windows at UHD, and any one of them is congruent to the others. Down here we have the sunflower's petals because they are congruent. And you notice it's not perfect, but it's close enough that it looks like it. And since we're dealing with Van Healy levels 0 and 1, that's perfectly appropriate. Our task here is to bring these items into the commonplace. And what we find is that students, if they can recognize a geometric term in nature, and if they can recognize a geometric term in something that is artificially man-made, they're very, very likely to recognize the term when it's presented to them in an abstract setting in their classroom. So as we finish it up, you'll notice the citations here. The citation says that they were taken by a member of our group. That way you have full rights to use it. And you can certainly use Google to get the definitions, to get ideas for your pictures. But remember, the pictures themselves should be pictures that you have taken. If you have any questions as you go forward on this, please be sure and email me. I'm more than happy to give you feedback. Just as on the midterm, I presented a lot of feedback to a lot of students. I'm happy to do that for you. I think when you are done, what you're going to have is something very powerful for use in your own classroom that will also go beyond just a classroom assignment for a math class. I've had former students tell me that they use this every year when they go through geometry.